for region play. I do think it's a strong opportunity. You look at what St. James has tonight, playing a Wando team. Sockasty lost to Wando earlier this year, but it was a one-score game. I think the St. James offense probably a little more potent. So high scoring game. I'm fully expecting it. The St. James offense can score a lot, but that defense, they've allowed 51 points, 47 points, or 48 points. So it's going to be maybe a shootout. So if you're looking for a lot of points, I think maybe head on down to St. James tonight.
Yeah, and you talk about, there really is no preseason with it when it comes to the high school football. I mean, we have the kickoff classic and things like that, but I mean, it's just like the NFL. We saw a lot of teams that we were expecting to be really good this year that came out and they did not play well. You have a lot of these high school teams that are still trying to find themselves and get ready for region play, which, these games are still important before you get into region play. But it's kind of like let's get ourselves rolling before we get into those games that truly matter that start seeding the playoffs.
Yeah, yeah, and just to make a point on that, I think when you talk to coaches throughout the county, this time of year is fascinating because, of course, we like to break down these games, and they are important. Listen, these games are important to these players and these coaches. I mean, they're very important, but you do have that sense of always in non-region competition of we're trying to figure things out because, as you mentioned, there is no preseason. So I always try to say, hey, let's keep that in mind. And we talk so much about the build up to region play. The reason we like to do that is because it really is that when October 4th rolls around for the beach region schools and then everybody else, it's hey, it's time to go. But until then, you have a little bit of leeway. So I always try to keep that in mind as we prepare for these games. Is it's not the preseason, but we're still trying to figure things out.
Well, one team that did seem to figure things out last week was Sockets getting a nice win on the road at Ainer. Obviously, playing a tough team like Dillon, they lose to Wando in a surprising first game of that season. So a game they probably should have won. But you look at this team; they're now 1-2. They're going to Stratford, who is 0-3 this season. Your thoughts on what the Braves did last week, and can they carry that momentum heading into the road this evening?
Yeah, well, you mentioned, going to Stratford, an 0-3 Stratford team. I talked to Sockasty head coach Ben Hampton, and this was immediately after the Ainer game last week. And he said, listen, everyone's going to talk about how we're going to Stratford and we're playing an 0-3 Stratford team. But if you look at their losses, I mean, they've lost to Somerville, Fort D, I mean, Daniel, Somerville, these are talented teams. So it's not quite an 0-3 that we've been talking about. And I think Sockasty understands that. Definitely a great win over Ainer last week for Sockasty, and you just saw so many things working well for the Braves. And it's important to note that because Sockasty is playing and probably will continue to play throughout the rest of the season without really two of their top playmakers on offense, receiver Josh Brown, freshman running back London Wilder, both going down with not quite season-ending injuries, but it could be. And so Sockasty really trying to figure things out, and a lot of that falling on running back Amari Godfrey, but also quarterback Christian Royals. And just one note that I shared this with other folks this morning, and I thought this was just such a great story from last week. After the game, I was there at Sockasty, at Ainer, Sockasty playing Ainer, and got a chance to interview starting quarterback Christian Royals after the game. And just to kind of go back to the point of we say these games really do matter. Royals had a great game. Christian, a really great kid. And I was just saying, hey, Christian, can you interview? And he says, sure. And I start to ask him about the game and just what it meant to him. And, he looks up at the scoreboard and he's looking around at his teammates and you can start to see him getting emotional, and in that interview, you can just really see the emotions coming out and it makes you understand that, yes, it's early in the year, but these games are just so meaningful. And so Sockasty has a great leader there in quarterback Christian Royals, tremendous talent around him. He's had some injury issues, but head coach Ben Hampton and the Braves feel like he's the guy to kind of lead them, especially leading into region play. So a good opportunity for Royals to kind of go on the road tonight and see what he can do. Obviously, going on the road, playing on the road, it's a challenging thing. So good opportunity there for Sockasty tonight.
And we do have some scores from yesterday. Hartsville getting a win over Rock Hill. Dillon beating Marion at home. Lakeview getting a nice win over Scotts Branch. Georgetown getting a second win on the season there over Carvers Bay, and Waccamaw over Johnsonville. Some of those games, your thoughts on those scores coming out of the Thursday night action we saw yesterday?
Yeah, I think obviously kind of a weird Thursday night lights week. I think you mentioned the winner. I think the one thing that stands out to me is that Waccamaw Johnsonville score. Waccamaw getting a win. That's a talented team. We saw them in the kickoff classic, but just interesting to kind of look at the Class 1A landscape across the county this year. And you look at Johnsonville, just another a loss, a struggling loss there, and that was probably a little bit disappointing to see there for the Flashes. So to me, that's the thing that stands out from our Thursday games. I know we have a lot coming up tonight, but Waccamaw getting a big win. And you look here, I mean, Hartsville, I think that it's nice for them to get kind of back on track. We're going to mention the Hartsville Carolina Forest tie all season long because it's just kind of hard to avoid that in the win loss record. And then Dillon, I mean, when you look at Dillon, this is a team. They're fun because we talk about them a lot in this area because of just how interesting it's going to be. They play Loris and they play Marlboro County in that absolutely stacked 3A region. And I'm just looking up now kind of at the board, and I realized that region play kicks off for Loris October 4th. It's a game against Dillon. I have a suspicion I'll be there, and I hope everybody's going to get a chance to watch that game because really early on in region play, Loris Dillon, that's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, that will be a lot of fun. And even next week, I believe Hartsville and Dillon, they will match up as well. So that should be a really good game of two high scoring offenses that will go together. And we'll see if it ends up being a defensive stop that ends up winning that, or if it ends up just being who has the ball last, the way those offenses are rolling. We do have some other games out in the PD. Fort Dorchester, they're going to be taking on South Florence, who are 1-2, surprisingly. But those were some tough teams that they have played. I believe they played Somerville and Northwestern last week, and I think they're in the top 10 across the state right now. So that was a surprising loss, or a surprising start to the season. Your thoughts on how they will fare tonight here as they host Fort Dorchester?
Yeah, I'm really interested to kind of look at this game because you mentioned, I mean, your losses and you look at the record. But again, I mean, Somerville and Northwestern, I think for Drew Marlowe's team right now, it's just do what you do well. Messiah Jackson, Jaden Sellers, this is a talented team. And this is a really check in game. Fort D is going to play good football. And so I think for South Florence, you definitely watch that. I'm really interested to see West tonight. It's a team that just, I think, still fascinates me. And I think
Mm-hmm.
they're one of those schools you just question, what are they going to be this year? What kind of are they up to the task? I mean, they've showed some really strong moments. Obviously, last week a big win, and should have a pretty good game there at the Castle. So West Florence, South Florence, they definitely fascinate me there. But I still think, Ian, we're kind of at the point of the year with both of these teams where I'm not sure we really know what West Florence is. I'm not really sure we know what South Florence is. And maybe that's what makes this time of the year fun. So let's just keep enjoying it. But as the weeks go on and we creep toward region play, I'm fascinated because I still think there's a lot of question marks out there with a lot of schools across the state. But I certainly think West Florence and South Florence fall into that bucket as well.
Yeah, a team that I was interested in was Mullins as well. They're 3-0 this year, and I was looking back at the
Yeah, how about
previous
that?
schedules. They have won more games this season than they've won in the last 3 seasons combined. So that's really cool to see a team that has struggled for the last 3 seasons to get back to a winning way. So that's really cool. They'll be taking on Latta, who was a very, very good team in years past. Still, they'll be trying to get 500 in this one. And we have Lamar at Lake City, Hemingway at Burke, Darlington. Darlington's been off to a really nice start this season as well. They'll be taking on Chirac and Hannah Pamplico at Lee Central. So some really good games, whether that's in the Grand Strand and the PD. But yeah, week 3 getting underway, and we're slowly starting to figure out who these teams are. But again, as we said, it all kind of leads up to once we get into that region play, which will be here before we know it.
Yeah, it's kind of unbelievable. I mean, you're sitting here week 3, and I was just thinking about it kind of before we came on today. You wait all off season for football season, and now it's almost like, can you slow down? I mean, we're week 3, we're creeping toward October. I always know when it's football season because you start to see all the pumpkins pop out in the neighborhood, and I'm thinking, wow, we're not just approaching football season. All of a sudden, we're in the thick of football season. I thought that last night when you and I were out at Green Sea. I was like, wow, the clock is ticking, the pages are turning, and it was fun to go out to Green Sea last night because it's just that atmosphere. I think we talked about it, but it's high school football. It's such a great thing to have high school football rolling in a small town on a Thursday night, not necessarily a Friday night, but still you had that adjustment and you had just such a great crowd. And I go back just to kind of wrap up, go back to head coach Jason Allen's quote, and he was like, "This is Carolina Clemson," but it really is that for these players. It really is that for these coaches. But not just that, you go out and it's that for these communities. I mean, we have so many great games. I'm fortunate. I'm heading out to North Myrtle Beach tonight to watch Loris and North Myrtle. And guess what? Loris is going to travel. they're going to bring a lot of folks to this game tonight, and North Myrtle Beach is going to pack the stands too. So it makes me excited. It really it makes a cloudy day today a little more okay. We don't have sunshine, but we have high school football, and I love it. I love how our communities continue to buy in, and it's been a fun season. And I know how much fun the season is going to continue to be here as we roll along.
Yeah, you were just talking about the atmosphere last night. It is fun because you have two small towns like Aner and Green Sea, which are very far away but very similar in the communities. A lot of farming communities, agriculture. There's not a whole lot out there. You got the Dollar General and things like that. So it's really cool. And we were talking out there. It's quiet, peaceful too. Sometimes on that field, you
Oh
can
yeah.
hear everything that those players are saying, and it's just funny listening to some of those kids trash talk and stuff like that. So, but it was really cool to be out there. I'll be heading out to Marlboro County at Conway here tonight, so that'll be a good game as well. So, Joe, we appreciate you jumping on as always, and we'll do this again next week.
Awesome. Thanks, Ian. Appreciate it.
Thanks. And of course, you guys can join us tonight on the Extra Point. That's going to be this evening at 11:15, right after our 11 o'clock newscast. So we appreciate you guys every week joining us. Tegan, she is also in Philadelphia this week, covering the Shants. So we'll get an update from her from Philadelphia tonight as well. So we appreciate you guys jumping on here for the Extra Point tailgate. We got WMBF News first at 4 with Eric Edwards getting here started here in the next 2 minutes. We'll have some previews of our Extra Point game of the week presented by the McGuire Law Firm. Again, Irmo at Carolina Forest. I will see you guys at 6 o'clock previewing that game. Till then, we'll get ready for some high school football as week 3 now gets underway. We'll see you guys tonight.